Next up, we will go to House Bill 5205 by Representative Deborah Giarro. This would limit the amount of fees charged by a third-party food delivery service to 15%.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members of the committee, and thank you for hearing this bill. The goal of this bill before you is to stem the high delivery fees that so many of our local restaurant owners are incurring. This industry has just been pummeled by COVID-19, and with more and more people ordering out, and the delivery fees are anywhere from 30 to 35%. This bill before you will cap that at 15%. You'll hear from a restaurant owner specifically on how it's impacted his business. And these delivery services didn't even exist 5 years ago. You know, and what I've learned too from talking with the lobbyists for these delivery services is they all seem to have very different business models. You know, Uber Eats employs their own drivers while others don't pay drivers. They have an app, so they're called independent contractors. I've learned that New York has passed legislation similar to this maybe about a week or so ago, and they created kind of a bifurcated approach where they cap the delivery fees at 15% and some of the marketing and credit card fees at 5%. So I'm open to negotiation on this bill. I think what's important is that we come forward with a bill that has two things. One, it creates an even playing field for all of these delivery services who have individual business models. But two, I think the language needs to be very transparent so our restaurant owners know exactly what the fees are and what they cover. So my goal really is to protect restaurant owners from exorbitant fees, but I also want to make sure we create kind of an even playing field for all of these delivery services. All is to say that, you know, I'm all about consensus building, and I'm open to what both the restaurant industry and these third-party delivery services can come together and decide upon. So that's the bill before you, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot of interesting testimony tonight on this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Representative Giarro? Vice Chair Caldwell.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Ruggiero, I just wanted to thank you so much for bringing up this topic of conversation. During the pandemic at home with my little kids, I use these third-party services a lot. And I didn't necessarily know that on top of the fees they were charging customers, that they were also impacting the restaurant owners so much in that way. So I am really looking forward to hearing from everyone, and I appreciate you bringing up this bill that is so important during the world that we're living in now. So thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Caldwell.
Are there any other questions for the witness? Representative Phillips.
Good afternoon, Representative. Thanks for putting this bill forward, but the question I have is a comment that was at the beginning of the pandemic. I had a couple of restaurants that, as a matter of conversation to me, just said, I got this foods delivery service that is coming on behalf of customers, but they didn't even know that they were being charged or these people were involved because of the fact that the other.
I'm sorry, he's cutting in and out. I cannot hear his question.
The question is there a provision in this bill that makes the businesses, the restaurant businesses, aware that these delivery services are asking to deliver for them? Because I've had some conversations, as I stated, that early on in the pandemic that they didn't know anything about these, like, I'm going to use DoorDash, but it's not the one that they were talking about, as an example, that they would advertise that the DoorDash was delivering for all these different businesses, and the restaurants didn't know anything about it.
Right, thank you, Rep. That's a great question. And again, that's why I said, I think what's really important as we reframe this with the sub-A is that we have language that's very transparent that says these third-party delivery services must disclose to the restaurants exactly what the fees are, to your point.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for the witness? Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you very much.
Next,
I look forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Next up, we will take up Brett Swanson from Grubhub. Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Yeah, you may proceed.
Say that again?
Yep, you're before the committee. You may proceed with your testimony.
Okay. Got it.
You just have to turn down the volume in the back if you have, because we're getting a little
Okay.
feedback.
Can everyone hear me now?
We can.
I'm here. Okay. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chairman Solomon and members of the committee. Good afternoon, Chairman Solomon and members of the committee. Thank you for your time today. My name is Brett Swanson. I'm head of public affairs for the East Coast.
Turn down the volume in the back. Yeah, because we're getting a little feedback.
Is it okay? Is that better?
There you go. That's better.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Let me restart here. So good afternoon, committee members. Thank you for your time. My name is Brett Swanson, head of public affairs for the East Coast at Grubhub. At the onset, Grubhub, we appreciate the state of Rhode Island's commitment to supporting the restaurants, that are the lifeblood of cities and neighborhoods across the state. This is a commitment we share and has been at the heart of our work since we were founded in 2004. But as proposed, the fee cap included in House Bill 5205 would have the opposite effect of its actual intent. A 15% delivery commission would be fraught with unintended and damaging consequences. And while well-intentioned, fee caps limit how restaurants, effectively the small and medium independent establishments, can effectively market themselves to drive demand. Grubhub provides critical marketing services that have hard costs, which let local independent restaurants compete with the large chains that have significant and seemingly unlimited marketing budgets. In other places where fee caps have been implemented, we have seen a clear effect of caps driving down how many consumers and customers and orders restaurants they receive, which in turn lowers the pay for drivers by reducing the amount of orders that are actually delivered. Further, commission caps force the hand of third-party delivery platforms to make difficult business decisions, which may impact service zones in outer rural areas. By setting a 15% cap, you risk completely eliminating that important supply chain of meals and earning ability for drivers. If this bill does move forward, however, one crucial amendment would be to allow restaurants to opt in to additional marketing and or advertising services, again, if they so choose. And this is the growing trend in the majority of major markets across the country. Every day we hear directly from our account administrators, from independent restaurants, about the unintended impacts of these caps. To quote one restaurant owner specifically, they said, quote, as a result of fee cap, this has been a hindrance rather than a relief. There is no way for us restaurant owners to increase traction and increase our revenue base against the large enterprise change. While it's critically important we support our restaurants right now, there are better ways to do so, and we look forward to working with you in these efforts. Thank you for your time and consideration today, and happy to have a conversation and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Are there any questions for the witness? Whip Kazarian.
Oh, hi there. I have a question. So how much does Grubhub charge a restaurant for a delivery on average?
Sure, and I appreciate the question, Representative. Grubhub specifically, this is a varying business model among all major players: DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. Grubhub, again, the sponsor mentioned all business models are different. That is 100% correct. Grubhub started as a marketing, advertising, search engine optimization provider. We did not start deliveries until about 5 years ago. And of the transactions that come in through the Grubhub app, only about 50% of those orders are resulting directly in the actual Grubhub driver charging. And in those instances where a restaurant uses Grubhub for delivery, meaning we use one of our drivers that we pay, we're only charging 10% for delivery in those instances.
So I actually used to work for a restaurant technology company, and the number was closer to 40%. So I know that Grubhub charges about 40% to each restaurant for each order. And I know you also charge a delivery fee because I've also used Grubhub many times, similar to Representative Caldwell. So you charge a delivery fee to your customers, and then you also charge the restaurants 40%. Does that sound right?
That does not sound correct. Just to push back a little bit on that, Again, if the restaurateur wants to use Grubhub for the delivery, meaning, again, we have to pay the delivery driver, we send them out to pick up the food from the restaurant and deliver it to the diner. In those instances, that is 10%. But in addition, if a restaurant uses to use our marketing services, and again, this is outside of the application. This is not just the rankings that are listing the restaurants, 1, 2, or 3 on the app. This is search engine optimization. This is loyalty rewards programs. This is website creation, development. These are direct ordering links. It's a myriad of options. And in those instances, the average is about 15 to 20% for those additional marketing services. So if you combine the 10% delivery plus the 15 to 20%, it's getting up to about 25 total.
So I'm sorry, just to follow up on your answer there. So you said it's about 10% you're charging for delivery right now?
10% if the restaurant chooses to use a Grubhub delivery driver. That's correct.
So why would you mind if we made it 15%?
Well, because in the bill as listed, it caps the total amount of all fees at 15%. And so in those instances, if a restaurant so chooses, for example, to use Grubhub delivery driver, there's 10%. But if they also choose and they wanted to get above that 15%, meaning they want to increase their rankings inside the application, or they want further search engine optimization via Google or something like that, that would mean if they wanted to get outside of that 15% realm, they would be restricted and they would not be able to do so. That is why, that's the reason for my response there.
Okay. I've heard from a lot of local restaurants. We have a lot of great restaurants here in Providence.
Sure.
And just from my knowledge from working for a restaurant technology company for many years, I know these numbers are a lot higher, and they're hurting them. So thank you for your response.
Appreciate it. And again, happy to provide more information if, happy to engage with you after.
Thank you, Whip Kazarian. Are there any other questions for the witness? Speaker Pro Tem Kennedy. If you could turn on your microphone.
I had the good fortune to sit next to Whip Kazarian the last time that this bill was heard in the Corporations Committee. And we did speak about the fact that, as Whip Kazarian noted, there are a number of restaurants who were not even aware of the fact that Grubhub, as well as some of the other technology service companies that are going to be speaking to us shortly, we're listing them as delivery options. They did not at any point in time sign a contract or do anything other than they started listing them on the app. And in some cases, some of these restaurants have decided on their own to start up their own delivery services because they realize people are getting ripped off by these delivery companies with the fees that they are charging and the fact that so often by the time the food gets there, it's cold anyways. So that ended up being a very bad marketing type of thing for these companies or these small restaurants that were looking to produce a quality product, and that by the time it got delivered to the customers, it was less than quality food because of the fact it took so long to get it delivered there and with the fees that were associated with it. So I do think that we have to look at doing something to address this situation, Mr. Chairman. From what I'm seeing here, these companies are marketing for restaurants, and the restaurants are not even asking to be marketed.
Sure. Representative, if I may just respond to that real quick. This is what you're referring to, the practice of listing a restaurant without prior knowledge and or consent. It's titled various things, ghosting, non-partnered legislation. And I will say that I am proud that Grubhub, we have taken the lead on this issue, and we have advocated heavily for the restriction of that practice. We believe, and we have stated publicly, that we believe that there should be an agreement, a contract with the restaurant partner before listing them on the application. I think that's critically important. We've lobbied for this in California. California has passed, Louisiana, recently Michigan, Massachusetts. And again, in New York State specifically, the Senate just passed a similar bill, and we helped, and we're very supportive of that bill. So I can 100% hear the frustrations and concern, and we know, Grubhub specifically would be totally on board with supporting legislation where that would restrict the listing of a restaurant without prior knowledge or consent. So
Well,
thank you.
I think that's great, and I think that gives Chairwoman Ruggiero a good basis for a sub-A on this piece of legislation, looking at what some of those other states are doing so that this properly addresses the issue there.
That's great. I'm happy to forward some language to you, Representative and Sponsor Ruggiero. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the witness? Seeing, the Representative Potter.
And me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. I know that there's a little bit of a dispute in terms of what the actual numbers of what the charges are currently, but I wonder if the witness can answer, have there been any adjustments made specifically through the time of COVID to their business model of how they're assessing fees and how they're charging?
Thank you, Representative. I assume you're referring to consumer-facing fees in this instance, or just in general?
I'd be happy to hear you elaborate on both.
Sure. And you're absolutely right. With demand, with fee caps, there have to be differences and business decisions made for pricing. We have stayed strong that when a restaurant chooses to use Grubhub for delivery, we remain near that 10% as much as possible. Again, with regard to the marketing and advertising fees that the restaurant chooses to opt into and to contract with us, again, that is up to the restaurateur, the restaurant owner to, again, it depends how much visibility, it depends how much advertising, and it depends how much marketing services they want to, again, how they want to compete with other restaurant businesses, restaurant owners. And what we're seeing with regard to marketing advertising services, it's not the large enterprise chains that need help with that. They have unlimited marketing budgets. And what we're, from Grubhub, our business model is starkly different and markedly different than some of our other partners. In that, Grubhub started as a marketing platform. We did not start delivery until about 5 years ago. So the thrust of our business, and that's why I mentioned only about 50% of our orders are done through delivery. And so restaurant partners choose to contract with us for those marketing and advertising services. And as I mentioned to the representative earlier, those range, that can range to, 10% up to 25%. But again, that's up to the restaurant's own discretion, how they want to pay for the services. When we're talking about consumer-facing fees, this is an unfortunate, aspect of the business. It's not something we want to do, but unfortunately, if a fee cap is implemented and put into place, we are a publicly traded company. We have shareholder responsibility and things like that. So, unfortunately, that is a decision that we have to make, and that is the case in some instances.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Speaker Lima.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize if the question's been asked, but the video's been jumping all over the place. What I wanted to ask is, when you do your billing, do you delineate the fees? Because I'm really having a hard time with restaurants who are not aware of what they're being charged. Do you delineate your fees?
We do, Representative, we do. And this is clearly listed. What we do with our restaurant partners, it's a 2-page contract. It's as in simple English as we possibly can make it. Our account administrators work directly with the restaurateur to pick and choose the myriad of services that they want to agree to. This is specifically listed. It's all delineated, and you are correct. When it comes to the in-app, if I'm the consumer-facing aspect of the app, these are also clearly listed. So you're able to see the breakdown right before you click checkout. You're able to see service fee, delivery fee. You're able to see all of those as well. So we are as clear as possible when we are working with the restaurant and with our diners.
Thank you. I have another question. How many companies are there out there in Rhode Island like you?
I can only speak for Grubhub, but I would say it's a high probability that the majority of major third-party delivery platforms are also in Rhode Island. Specific markets, that's a different story.
Because if here's what I'm not comprehending. If there's a lot of companies out there like you, and the fees are being delineated, wouldn't the marketplace take care of itself? I'm going to utilize the one that gives me the best price.
And you're 100% correct. And again, whether it's the diner and or the restaurateur, that is up to them. If they want to use Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, wherever they're able to structure the best deal, that's what so the market, you are correct, Representative. The market will figure itself out.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the witness?
Joe, I have one more question.
Whip
Sorry,
Kazarian.
Joe. Just one more question, sorry. How long is what does the contract look like? When you said the word contract, it just, I just wanted to ask, what does the contract look like for a restaurateur? Is it a 2-year contract? Are they locked into fees, or how does that work?
These are contracts that be canceled by the restaurateur at any time. I mean, usually we'll take 1 day to take them off of the application. But again, if a restaurateur is not happy with its service that we're providing, they can get out anytime. There's no duration period.
And is there a fee for leaving early before your contract?
0.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Vice Chair Caldwell.
Hi, I just wanted to pipe in because I know we've been talking about a lot of different issues, but we did hear a separate bill last year in this committee about the restaurants needing to opt in to have those services used so that they weren't surprised when a DoorDash or Grubhub or an Uber Eats driver showed up at their door and they were allowed to decide whether their food got to be used in that way. So I don't know if that's been introduced again, but that was in a separate bill last year that maybe the chairwoman, might want to talk to. It was Chairman Craven's bill about either merging those or however they want to work it. But that was on our agenda last year that we had a hearing about.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for the witness? Hearing none? Thank you. So next up, we will go to Sam Glenn from Chomp Kinshit. Sam, you're on the line if you'd like to testify before the committee.
Okay.
You may proceed.
Hey there, good evening. Thank you for having me. And I've been working with the Hospitality Association. I'm a board member of the Education Foundation there. I've recently opened up a restaurant, a second location of our burger and sandwich concept, Chomp, in Providence over the summer. And we've been contending with third-party delivery companies for at least the past 3 or 4 years. During the pandemic, it's obviously ramped up. We have, essentially gotten, into bed with the devil, so to speak, over the past few months here. As restrictions continued to tighten, we needed to continue to provide as many different revenue streams as we could for our business, just to contend with the lack of guests coming through our doors. So we chose to go with one of the delivery companies, DoorDash, begrudgingly, but desperate times do call for desperate measures. One of the things that I did want to mention, Representative Craven and the Hospitality Association, they had legislation last year on this where I testified with Brian Casey, and about the transparency and the listing of restaurants unbeknownst to operators like myself on their websites. And it was before this committee back when, I think it was in March or February of 2020. What I want to speak to on the specific bill was, during a pandemic, during a time of state of emergency, every dollar counts for a restaurant no matter what. But during a state of emergency, similar to a pandemic, cash flow is king. With declining guests, given the state of emergency with restrictions, every dollar that comes in is more valuable to the operator than ever before. If we are siphoning 30% of our revenue to a third-party delivery company to do that, a lot of times you end up theoretically working for that delivery company. As you know, restaurant margins are thin. During a pandemic, they're even thinner. The cost of, a lot of these companies talk about incremental sales. That's part of their sales tactic when they have you on the phone and they're trying to get you to sign up for their service. We have had contract negotiations with Grubhub. I think there's a lot more to the fees than Brett mentioned, but that's a conversation for a different day. The transparency or lack thereof from these companies is really what has put this thing into the forefront of everybody's minds here, I think. A lot of restaurant owners, friends of mine, myself, you get desperate. And if you are looking at your sales every week and you're trying to figure out ways to continue to stay open, keep your lights on, and you get a call from one of these companies that offers you this, this beautiful app and the opportunity to get food to people that you wouldn't otherwise get food to, it sounds pretty good. Once they get the hook in you, then they explain to you how they break down their fees. They'll give you 1 month free maybe. They'll incentivize you with some other things, maybe list you at the top of their listings on their marketplace. But then reality hits and, you have to start paying these fees. And they're exorbitant. Like I mentioned, restaurant margins are slim. You take 30% of a $10 check and you're paying $3. It costs me about $7 to put that, into that box to send it on its way. So I'm essentially working for Grubhub or DoorDash or, Uber Eats, Postmates, whoever you want to call it. That doesn't work. It's good for cash flow for the short term, but long term, it's not sustainable. And with these contracts, with all this, kind of smoke and mirrors, they get people to sign up, and the consumer has no idea. I had a friend order from me the other day through, a third-party delivery, and they tipped, but they don't know that tips don't go to us. I think that's something that should be transparent as well. So, if these companies do want to partner with us, it's critical that it's a partnership and not, a predatory relationship where they basically use us to make money. That's the way that I feel. It's the way a lot of my colleagues feel in this industry, and it's been a long fight. We finally gave in, but we still continue to get calls from Postmates, Uber Eats, Grubhub, all these guys about something that one of the other representatives spoke about a minute ago, with not being listed on the site, but somebody coming in to pick up food, unbeknownst to us. And what they will do is they will call, pretend to be the person calling that placed the order on their portal. Somebody will call from Palo Alto, California, place the order. We're not aware that it's coming from a delivery service, and we put it in our POS system, we bag it up, we send it out, and a Postmates driver shows up. And we're like, we don't use Postmates. And they're like, well, we have an order here from, Mike Smith, and he ordered this from you. And we are tasked with either declining that or, choosing to take that money. And let's be honest, right now, restaurants need every dollar they can get. So it's a constant battle. It's one that we hope with this bill can at least provide a little bit more clarity for us moving forward.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for the witness? Let's see if there's anybody online. Doesn't appear that there are any questions for the witness. Thank you, Sam, very much for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Next up, we have written testimony from the Hospitality Association in favor. We have written testimony from Christopher Gilrain of TechNet in opposition. We have written testimony from Haley Prim of Uber Eats in opposition. Jordan Goyette has provided written testimony in support. And Lenny Lopes from TechNet has provided written testimony in opposition. And that concludes the hearing on House Bill 5205. Vice Chair O'Brien, would you like your votes recorded in the affirmative?
Yes, I would, Chairman.
So ordered. Representative Shawcross Smith, would you like yours as well?
Yes, please. Part of roll call.
So ordered.